Hey everyone, it's Max here, and this is my new original story on the channel.
Go to missingmoney.com right now. Type in your last name. Type in the state where your grandparents lived, or your great-grandparents. Go back as far as you can. For a significant percentage of the people watching this video, something will come up. An old bank account, a life insurance policy, a utility deposit, a dividend check that was never cashed. The money is real. The government has it. It belongs to you or to your family. You can claim it. The total amount currently held in unclaimed property accounts across the United States is approximately $58 billion. It belongs to specific people with specific names. The state governments are legally required to hold it indefinitely and to pay it out when the rightful owner or heir comes forward. That is the good news about unclaimed assets. Now, I want to tell you about the accounts that are not on missingmoney.com. The ones that have been waiting not for 10 years or 20 years, but for 150 years. The ones that belong to the families of 61,144 people whose names and deposit amounts and home addresses have been sitting in the National Archives since 1874. The Freedmen Savings and Trust Company was chartered by Congress on March 3, 1865. The same day, Congress established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. The bank was specifically designed to serve the freed black population of the post-Civil War South. Its purpose, as stated in its charter, was to encourage savings and thrift among the formerly enslaved. The bank grew rapidly. By 1870, it had 34 branches across the South and in several northern cities. Depositors came from every economic level of the freed community. Domestic servants depositing a few dollars a month, skilled tradesmen depositing larger sums, ministers and teachers and business owners with substantial accounts. The depositors trusted the bank. It had been established by Congress. The Freedmen's Bureau had encouraged people to use it. General Oliver Howard, the Bureau's commissioner, had his name associated with it. If the federal government of the United States had created this bank for you, you had reason to believe it was safe. The bank's headquarters were in Washington, D.C., at 1507 Pennsylvania Avenue, a few blocks from the White House. The location was intentional. This was the government's bank for the freed people. What the depositors did not know, what the bank's trustees did not adequately disclose, and what congressional investigation would later reveal, was that the bank's charter had been amended in 1870 to allow its trustees to invest depositors' funds in speculative real estate ventures. The trustees, most of whom were white businessmen appointed under the bank's original structure, had made a series of bad investments using money that black depositors had entrusted to an institution they believed was federally guaranteed. The investments failed. In 1873, the financial panic that devastated American markets hit the Freedmen's Bank hard. The bank was already weakened by the real estate losses. The panic accelerated the collapse. Depositors began withdrawing funds. The bank could not meet the withdrawals. In March 1874, Congress appointed Frederick Douglass as the bank's new president, a desperate public relations move to stop the run on deposits. Douglass accepted the position and put $10,000 of his own money into the bank to demonstrate confidence. He spent 3 months examining the books. What he found horrified him. The bank was insolvent. The investments had wiped out the depositors' money. The books were in disorder. The losses were unrecoverable. On June 28, 1874, Douglass told Congress the bank had to close. Congress passed a bill closing the bank on June 29, 1874. A commission was appointed to liquidate the remaining assets and pay out what was left to depositors. The commission paid out approximately 62 cents on the dollar, but only to depositors who could document their accounts. This is the detail that makes the Freedmen's Bank collapse distinctly worse than an ordinary bank failure. A significant portion of the depositors were people who had recently emerged from slavery. Many were illiterate. They had deposited their money and received passbooks, small notebooks recording their balance. Some had kept their passbooks. Many had not. Some depositors' passbooks had been managed by the bank itself, with depositors relying on bank clerks to record their transactions. When the bank collapsed and the commission began reviewing accounts, The records were in disorder. Depositors without passbooks, whose accounts existed only in the bank's own ledgers, had to prove their deposits from bank records that were incomplete and in some cases fraudulent. The Commission received claims from depositors it could not verify. Those depositors received nothing. The people who lost everything, people who had saved carefully, who had done exactly what the government encouraged them to do, had no recourse when the Commission closed. Their account records, however, survived. The Freedmen Savings and Trust Company records are in the National Archives under the records of the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. The collection includes the original account ledgers, the depositor registers, and the records of the Liquidation Commission. It is one of the most complete records of the black economic life of Reconstruction-era America that exists anywhere. The records have been partially digitized. FamilySearch.org hosts the digitized Freedmen's Bank records as part of its Freedmen's Bureau project. The records are searchable by name for free. If you search your family name, if your family has roots in the South after the Civil War, you may find an ancestors account. The record will show their name, their branch, their deposit amounts, and in many cases their address and the names of family members listed as beneficiaries. The record will also show what happened to the account when the bank closed, whether a payout was made, whether the depositor filed a claim with the Liquidation Commission, whether the claim was approved or denied. The specific financial loss your ancestor suffered in 1874 is in that record. Now, I want to tell you about the 3 times Congress has been asked to make it right, because the congressional record documents each attempt, and the congressional record shows what the arguments against compensation were each time. The first attempt was in 1874 itself, immediately after the collapse. Several congressmen proposed appropriating federal funds to make depositors whole. The argument was that Congress had chartered the bank, Congress had failed to oversee it adequately, and Congress bore responsibility for the loss. The proposal failed. The arguments against it are in the Congressional Globe for the 43rd Congress. They include: the government does not guarantee private banks even if it charters them. The depositors took a risk by depositing. The federal treasury cannot be used to compensate the losses of one specific community without opening the door to unlimited claims. The second attempt was in 1901, when Senator George Hoar of Massachusetts introduced a bill to compensate Freedmen's Bank depositors. The bill was referred to committee and never brought to a vote. The third attempt is recent. In 2021, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio introduced the Freedmen's Bank Act, which proposed to study the impact of the bank's collapse and develop a framework for compensation. The bill passed the House and stalled in the Senate. The arguments in 2021 were similar to the arguments in 1874. The congressional record documents both sets of arguments. They are available through congress.gov. Between 1874 and 2021, 147 years, the account records sat in the National Archives, the names sat in them, the deposit amounts sat in them, the addresses and family members sat in them, the money did not. There is a number that appears in congressional testimony about the Freedmen's Bank. Several economists and historians testifying before Congress in connection with the 2021 Freedmen's Bank Act calculated what the 61,144 depositors' losses would be worth today if the uncompensated deposits had earned interest at the federal funds rate since 1874. The number is not in the congressional record because Congress chose not to include it in the legislation. But the testimony is in the congressional record. The calculations are in the written testimony submitted to the relevant House subcommittee. They are available through congress.gov. I will tell you what the testimony said. The uncompensated deposits with interest represent billions of dollars. The specific figure varies depending on the interest rate assumption and the methodology, but the order of magnitude is not disputed. What was lost in 1874, approximately $2.9 million in total uncompensated deposits, compounded over 150 years, is a very large number. I am not going to tell you the government owes your family a specific dollar amount. That is a political and legal question that is not mine to answer. What I am going to tell you is that the records that document what your ancestor deposited and what they lost are in the National Archives and on FamilySearch.org. The record of what Congress has and has not done about it is in the Congressional Record, and the $58 billion in unclaimed assets that the government is currently holding for American families, the money on missingmoney.com, includes some accounts that belong to the descendants of Freedmen's bank depositors, whose assets eventually made their way into unclaimed property databases through other channels. I want to tell you about a specific depositor because specific people are harder to dismiss than aggregate numbers. Her name was Letty Saunders. She was a domestic servant in Richmond, Virginia. She had been enslaved before the war and had worked as a domestic servant in the years immediately after. She opened an account at the Freedmen Savings Bank branch in Richmond in 1868. The account records show she deposited between $1 and $3 per week. Consistent amounts, modest savings, the specific financial behavior of someone who understood the value of systematic saving. By 1873, her account balance was $47.82. When the bank collapsed in 1874, Letty Saunders filed a claim with the Liquidation Commission. The claim records, which are part of the same National Archives collection, show that her claim was approved for 62 cents on the dollar. She received a payment of $29.65. She lost $18.17, $18.17 in 1874. For a domestic servant earning a few dollars a week, $18.17 was approximately 6 weeks of savings. It was the specific amount she had put aside over months of careful thrift that the federal government's bank had taken and not returned. Her record is in the National Archives. Her name is Letty Saunders. Her branch was Richmond, Virginia. Her account number is in the ledger. Her claim record is in the Liquidation Commission files. I found her because I was searching the FamilySearch.org database. I was not looking for her specifically. I was looking for an account that would illustrate what the records contain. Her account came up in the first page of results for Richmond, Virginia. She may be your ancestor. She is certainly someone's ancestor. Now, I want to tell you how to search, because the search is the action the video is pointing toward, and I want to give you specific instructions. Step 1. Go to FamilySearch.org. It is free. No account required for basic searching. Step 2. In the search bar, type Freedmen's Bank. The collection appears as United States Freedmen's Bureau, Bank Records, 1865 to 1874. Step 3. Search by surname. Use the state field to narrow to the state where your family lived after the Civil War. The branches were in Alabama, Arkansas, Washington, D.C., Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. Step 4. If you find a result, click through to the original record image. The image shows the account ledger page with your ancestor's name, their deposit history, and information about their account when the bank closed. Step 5. If you find an ancestor who had an account, note their account number. The Liquidation Commission records, which are in a separate series in the same National Archives collection, use account numbers to cross-reference claims. You can determine whether your ancestor filed a claim and what happened to it. This is free. It takes approximately 5 minutes to do the initial search. Now I want to tell you about the connection between the Freedmen's Bank records and the modern unclaimed property system, because the connection is real and it is documented. When a person dies without claiming money, they are owed an old bank account, an insurance policy, a stock dividend. The money does not disappear. Under state unclaimed property laws, financial institutions are required to transfer those funds to the state government after a period of inactivity. The state holds the money indefinitely and maintains a database so that rightful owners and heirs can claim it. The Freedmen's Bank itself cannot contribute to this system because the bank is gone and its assets were distributed in 1874. But the economic chain that started with the bank's collapse continued. Depositors who received partial payment or no payment made economic decisions where to live, how to earn, what to save, shaped by that loss. Their descendants made economic decisions shaped by what their parents and grandparents had or had not been able to pass on. Some of those descendants have accounts, insurance policies, and other financial assets sitting in state unclaimed property systems right now. The search on missingmoney.com is the search for that money, the money that is accumulated in your family's name through whatever channels history provided. The search on FamilySearch.org is the search for what was lost before that, the specific account your ancestor had, the specific amount they saved, the specific failure that the government created and has 3 times declined to address. Both searches are free. Both take 5 minutes. Both can tell you something about your family's financial history that you probably do not know. The Freedmen's Bank records have been in the National Archives since 1874. The missingmoney.com database is updated regularly by state governments. The government is holding money that belongs to your family. Some of it has been there for 150 years. Some of it arrived more recently. Both sets of records have your family's name in them. FamilySearch.org hosts the digitized Freedmen's Bank records for free. Search Freedmen's Bank in the main search bar or navigate to the collection United States Freedmen's Bureau, Bank Records, 1865 to 1874. No account required for basic searching. The original Freedmen Savings and Trust Company records are in the National Archives under the records of the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. The finding aid is available through archives.gov. The collection includes the original account ledgers, depositor registers, and liquidation commission claim records, the Congressional Record for the 43rd Congress, 1874, the 57th Congress, 1901, and the 117th Congress, 2021, contains the debates and testimony about compensation for Freedmen's Bank depositors. All are available through congress.gov. Missingmoney.com is the official database of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, connecting to state unclaimed property databases across the country. The search is free. The money, if found, can be claimed directly through the state government. Each state also maintains its own unclaimed property database. California's is at sco.ca.gov. New York's is at osc.state.ny.us. Texas's is at claimittexas.gov. A full list of state databases is available through the NAUPA website. The Freedmen's Bank records are free. The unclaimed property search is free. Both can tell you something about your family's financial history that the official history did not. Subscribe, because next week we open another file.